All right, y'all. I want to make this quick little video for real, and I don't know how well it's gonna go if my children let me make it. But so I was reading the Zohar, and I came across something that kind of disturbed me, and it kind of just led me on a somewhat of a research mission, real quick, right? Um, so I read something in the Zohar, and it alluded to something about Joseph, and it alluded to, I don't know the exact what it said exactly, but it alluded to something like Joseph was referred to the reason why the Jews can dominate other nations of people, right? So I'm like, okay, all right, everything that's going on in the world, hearing something like that, it kind of disturbed me a little bit. So I'm like, all right, let's see when the Zohar was written. Who wrote the Zohar? Okay, Rabbi Akiva. He allegedly um yeah, he allegedly wrote the Zohar, but it was put together like in the 13th century by Rabbi, I want to say Moses de Leon. Don't quote me on that one, right? But Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva he wrote the Zohar in the 2nd century in Galilee, right? Which is over in that area, the Israel area. Okay? So my main goal was, okay, I want to know the race of these people. What is the race of these people that we're calling, that started this tradition? And this is what I found out. So the first thing that I wanted to do was, I wanted to look at the timeline of Mesopotamia, right? And from 5000 BC, okay, from 5000 BC all the way up till all the way up until 499 to 494 BC, there is nothing that we will call Europeans, or for lack of better words, white people. Okay, so this whole time frame here, you're dealing with Sumerians, you're dealing with Akkadians, you're dealing with Babylonians, okay, and even Assyrians, which really is Sumerian, later on Sumerians, right? But however the case may be, whatever the case may be, you're not talking about any Europeans, okay? You're not talking about any, what you will call today, what is better known as white folks. No white people. You understand what I'm saying? This is what you call Afro-Asiatic, okay? If you do the research, you will see that this is Afro-Asiatic. Now, so I wanted to know, okay, so if there is any what you would call white people in this region, or Europeans in this region, when did they come in? And when would they come in, and how would they get there? So it's obvious that the only time that any Europeans, or what you would call white folks, that come on the scene in this region is dealing with Greeks, the Greek invasion. All right, and the Greeks obviously go to war with the Persians. So the Greeks is at war with the Persians. So before we talk about that, these are the rulers of Mesopotamia up until the Greeks. It's Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and Persians. Okay, these are the people. Now, this is where things get weird and funny. So you have something like, you see on a timeline, you got Nebuchadnezzar and his conquest of Judah, all right, and his deportation of Hebrew peoples, the Hebrew exile, right? But you got to understand, even when you're dealing with this, right, this Hebrew exile, you got to understand that there is no Europeans, there is no white people here. Okay, there is no white people here. Even when you're dealing with the Persians are not white people. There is no white people here. Okay, there is no Europeans here. The only time the Europeans come about is through the Greeks and the Romans. It's through the Greeks and the Romans around 500 BC. Okay? So, so why is that important? So even when you're dealing with the first temple, right? If you try to research the history of Judaism, in the culture of Judaism, in the culture of the Israelites, right? If you try to research it, you got the first temple and you got the second temple. So the first temple period deals with about 1000 BC, right? So this first temple period time, right, is from like 1000 BC or something like that till 70 BC, right? Is if I'm not mistaken, it's right after if I'm not mistaken, it's right after they leave the rule of the Egyptians in that area. But don't quote me on that. So the first temple period is from 1000 BC or something like that, or 1200 BC to 70 BC, something like that. Something like that. Let me see if I had we can look it up real quick. Let's see. Let me see. I probably got it already up in here. That's the second temple. Oh, so the second temple time period is from 500 BCE to 70 CE. So that's the second temple period. Okay, so this is the second temple was right around the time where the Greeks come on the scene, right? So that's second temple period. Let me see if I go back. Let me see. Oh man, I don't want to do that. What happened? Close that. I hope I don't die. Battery don't die. Let me see what we get. Probably gonna have to Google it to get that actual. Let's see. First temple, Jerusalem. There we go. Okay. So now look at this. Now this is supposed to be actual history. So they say that the first temple deals with the Temple of Solomon. So you know that the Temple of Solomon did not exist. The first house of the sanctum was the biblical temple in Jerusalem, believed to have existed between the 10th and the 6th centuries BCE. Its description is largely based on narratives in the Hebrew Bible. We know the Bible is not an actual historical document. Okay. It might have some bits and pieces of history, but we know it's not a historical document. So that's not something that we can take as actual history. That's a problem. In the Babylonian siege, okay. All right. So, however, the first temple time, let's see. By the time of the Babylonian siege, so let's go back. So, there's no Europeans on the scene. That's the whole point. So, my thing is this. So we know that the foundation that was constructed, far as this whole Judaism thing, the whole foundation is standing on the shoulders of Afro-Asiatics. It's what it's called. It's called Afro-Asiatics. So where do the Europeans come in at? Because that's who's holding it down now. When you picture these people, you're taught to picture Europeans now. You think about Jews and Jewish people, you think about Europeans. You don't think about Afro-Asiatics. So what happened and how did they take this thing over? So you see that the first temple dealt with mythology. It dealt with a myth. So did this first temple time ever exist, or did this time period in this place, was they actually even what you would call Jewish, or was they still dealing with indigenous paganistic beliefs, right? So now you can see the timeline. Babylonians, Persians, okay, Greeks on the scene. So you get the second temple is during the Greek time. So now let's fast forward so I can tell you what I did. So I looked at all of these successors and predecessors of the lineage, right? The Israelite lineage. And it takes me all the way back to Matthias, right? And I could show you, I could follow my footsteps. And I'm looking, I'm like, what is this? I'm like, how is this? Because the thing of it is, this is the thing. This is what I'm trying to get down to. We know that Europeans don't originate in this part of the world, but I wanted to know, how did they get there? Right? And so how they got there, this is the trickery and this is the lie. And even when I follow this all the way back, it's talking about some Maccabees stuff. Right? This, as far as it goes back, is to 167 BCE. It won't go back no further. Won't go back no further, which makes sense because we got 250 BC, we got Manichaeism and Mithraism, an offshoot of Zoroastrianism and Mithraism through the Manichaeism. Okay. All right. So it's obvious that it's obvious that the Europeans come in, and during this time period here, okay, and that's how you get, what are you calling, that was my little research on Canaan. So this is how you get, what happened to the page? So this is how you get, what are you calling, this Jewish lineage, right? But this is the crazy part about it. This is the crazy part about it is that these people, that the whole world is thinking that these people are Jewish and Jews. These people are Greeks. They're Greeks now, and now they're actually, if you look into it, they're going to war with Hellenism, right? They're going to war with Hellenism. So these are the options. There's two things. The only way for these people to be Europeans or to be white people is that they will have to be Greeks and Romans that came in during that time and started to claim this Jewish lifestyle. Or they're not actually Europeans and white and what we would call white people, and they're just portrayed as it, and they're actually Afro-Asiatics, or at the least bit mixed breeds. You understand what I'm saying? So I just wanted to share that, because reading things like the Zohar and reading these documents, I'm realizing that it's a very racial and bloodline importance associated with it. So I just wanted to do some research. I'll come back and talk some more about this, but at this particular time I gotta go. I gotta wrap it up. So we'll be back and talk about it.